He stood there in the pouring rain, clutching a tiny, half-wet umbrella over his son's head while his own clothes soaked through to the bone. His eyes were tired, his heart heavier than the world on his shoulders. Daniel, a 34-year-old single father, had just lost his second job in 3 months. And as he stared down the city street, unsure of where the next paycheck or even the next meal would come from, he heard a soft whisper that would change his life forever. "Nobody wants my baby." At first, he thought he imagined it. But then he looked up and saw her, a young woman in a tattered wedding dress, sitting on the edge of the fountain in the town square. Her hands clutched her belly, her eyes empty. She looked like a ghost of what should have been the happiest day of her life. 3 months earlier, Daniel had been a warehouse supervisor, trying to balance long hours with raising his 5-year-old son, Eli, after his wife had passed away from leukemia. The grief was still raw. He tried to keep a brave face for Eli, but some nights he cried silently, staring at the photo of the woman he once called his anchor. His world revolved around Eli: school drop-offs, midnight fevers, scraped knees, bedtime stories. But jobs didn't care about sick kids or grief. One missed shift for a school emergency, and he was replaced. The second job as a rideshare driver didn't last long either. His car broke down, and he didn't have the money to fix it. Bills piled up. Notices turned red. The fridge was a sad collection of leftovers and half-empty bottles. But through it all, Daniel never let Eli feel the weight of their struggle. He smiled, played superheroes, and kissed him goodnight like everything was okay. Daniel walked slowly toward the woman, not wanting to startle her. The city buzzed around them, but it felt like the world had muted itself. She looked up as he approached, her mascara smeared, her lips trembling. I didn't mean to say that out loud," she said quickly, trying to compose herself. Daniel didn't say anything at first. He sat beside her, giving her space but also presence. "I know what it feels like," he finally said. "To feel like you're all alone, like no one wants the responsibility you carry." She looked at him then, really looked. He was soaked, clearly exhausted, holding the hand of a small boy with wide, curious eyes. "My name's Sarah," she said after a moment. "Today was supposed to be my wedding day." Daniel nodded gently. "And?" "He left. Just before the ceremony. Said he wasn't ready to be a father. He knew I was pregnant when he proposed, but I guess the reality hit too hard." She paused, then whispered again, "Nobody wants my baby." Daniel felt something stir inside him, maybe because he'd once been that terrified new dad, maybe because he knew what it meant to be left with nothing but a child and the weight of survival. He reached out, slowly, and took her hand. "Your baby deserves to be wanted. And you deserve to be loved, not left." Sarah's eyes welled with tears. Nobody had said anything like that to her before. She had no family left. Her mom died when she was 16. Her dad had walked out years before that. She had been counting on this man to be her new beginning. But all she got was another ending. Over the next few weeks, Daniel did something he never expected. He showed up. He brought her small things: fresh bread, a baby book he found at the thrift store, a tiny teddy bear Eli insisted she needed. They weren't dating. There was no pressure, no promises. Just two broken people finding solace in each other's presence. Eli took to her quickly, calling her Miss Sarah, always bringing her leaves and sticks like little treasures. Sarah started to smile again. She got a job at a local diner thanks to a favor Daniel pulled from an old friend. Daniel found part-time work fixing bikes, using skills he'd almost forgotten he had. They began to trade responsibilities. She'd watch Eli while Daniel worked, and he'd go with her to doctor appointments, holding her hand when she heard the baby's heartbeat for the first time. "I'm scared," she said one night, curled up on the couch with a pillow between them. "Me too," he replied. "But we'll figure it out." The night she went into labor, it was Daniel who rushed her to the hospital. He never left her side. He held her hand through the pain, whispered encouragement through her screams, and cried alongside her when a beautiful baby girl, Hope, was placed on her chest. She looked at Daniel and said through tears, "She has a family now." 6 months later, Daniel was working full-time at a local repair shop. Sarah had moved in, not as a couple but as co-survivors, building something new from the ruins of their pasts. But something had changed. Between bedtime stories and shared dinners, laughter over spilled milk and midnight diaper changes, a bond had formed. On a warm spring afternoon, they sat under the tree in the park, Eli playing with Hope's tiny hands. Sarah looked at Daniel. "Do you think it's possible to fall in love, not because of fireworks or fancy dates, but because someone held your hand when you were drowning?" Daniel smiled, reaching for her hand again. "I think that's the best kind of love. Today, they're a family. Not perfect, but real." Daniel never imagined love could grow from a whisper in the rain, but it did. Not just between him and Sarah, but in the space they created, where no child is unwanted, no tear goes unseen, and no soul has to survive alone. And every time he looks at Hope, he remembers that broken moment at the fountain. From despair, came family. From loss, came love. And from holding one trembling hand, came everything. Sometimes, the people who need love the most find it in the most unexpected places. Share this story if you believe in second chances. Because no child, no person, should ever feel unwanted.